And we have something that almost no other country in the world has. We have the single greatest mechanism to call forth the genius of our fellow human beings.
Beto O'Rourke has announced his 2020 bid. Now, when he was running against Ted Cruz for Senate in Texas, I was a supporter of his. I mean, when you're going up against Satan, it seems kind of dumb to be hyper-focused on the person that is trying to fight Satan and nitpicking their record. But when it comes to the race for 2020, we have to be honest about Beto O'Rourke's history. So in this video, I'm going to go over some video clips of his and of people talking about Beto O'Rourke. I'm also going to discuss his platform or lack thereof, discuss Beto O'Rourke's big donors and what impact that might have, and also some other reactions from around the internet. Now, I want to start with this Vanity Fair cover where he announced his run with this interesting quote here. Beto's choice, quote, "I want to be in it, man. I'm just born to be in it." Now, this is my issue right off the bat. We have a politician here who is focused on himself. This is the old way of doing politics. This is all focused. This is all about narcissism, all about this candidate, himself, me. Whereas going forward now with with real issues that people are facing, they want a candidate that is actually speaking for the people. So as a contrast to what Beto is running on right off the bat, you have Bernie Sanders, who is not about himself. I mean, Bernie's slogan is not me, us. And when you see him in his various campaign rallies, during his speeches, he talks about how he can't do this alone. He understands, just as we should all understand, that to be able to change things, be able to change how politics operates and actually get things done, you need a movement outside of the White House to do that. You need a people-powered movement to get shit done. And you need a candidate who isn't propped up by big donor money, which Beto O'Rourke is. And I'll get into that. But first, let me play this clip where he makes his announcement. And he's sitting here with his wife. This is about 3 minutes long. Now, look, if you have a strong bullshit detector like I do, it's going to be hard to make it through these 3 minutes. Feel free to fast forward. But I do think it's also important to watch this and really get a sense of what Beto O'Rourke appears to be about.
Amy and I are happy to share with you that I'm running to serve you as the next president of the United States of America. This is a defining moment of truth for this country and for every single one of us. The challenges that we face right now, the interconnected crises in our economy, our democracy, and our climate have never been greater, and they will either consume us or they will afford us the greatest opportunity to unleash the genius of the United States of America. In other words, this moment of peril produces perhaps the greatest moment of promise for this country and for everyone inside of it. We can begin by fixing our democracy and ensuring that our government works for everyone and not just for corporations. We can invest in the dignity of those who work and those who seek to work. We can ensure that every single American can see a doctor and be well enough to live to their full potential. And all of us, wherever you live, can acknowledge that if immigration is a problem, it's the best possible problem for this country to have. And we should ensure that there are lawful paths to work, to be with family, and to flee persecution. We can listen to and lift up rural America. We can work on real justice reform and confront the hard truths of slavery and segregation and suppression in these United States of America. We can reassert our global leadership and end these decades-long wars and be there for every woman and man who is served in them. And perhaps most importantly of all, because our very existence depends on it, we can unleash the ingenuity and creativity of millions of Americans who want to ensure that we squarely confront the challenge of climate change before it's too late. This is going to be a positive campaign that seeks to bring out the very best from every single one of us, that seeks to unite a very divided country. We saw the power of this in Texas, where people allowed no difference, however great or however small, to stand between them and divide us, whether it was religion or gender or income or geography. We put our labels and our differences aside to come together for the only thing that matters, the future of this country and the generations that will follow us. Over the coming days, I'm going to travel this country and listen to those who I seek to serve, to understand from your perspective how we can best meet these challenges. On March 30th, I will be back here in El Paso, Texas, and I invite you to join us in a kickoff for this campaign. But even if you cannot be here on March 30th, I still want your help organizing where you live, bringing in friends and family and neighbors to the greatest grassroots campaign this country has ever seen. There's a lot more to come, but I want to leave you with this. The only way for us to live up to the promise of America is to give it our all and to give it for all of us. We are truly now, more than ever, the last great hope of Earth. At this moment of maximum peril and maximum potential, let's show ourselves and those who will succeed us in this great country just who we are and what we can do. Thank you.
All right. If you managed to make it through those 3 minutes, did your bullshit detector go off too? Because this entire thing was just empty platitudes. There was no specifics about how he's addressing any of the issues that he brought up. And you're going to understand why he speaks like this. You're going to understand why he is very flowery in his language, very, very vague, very, saying he's positive, but ultimately not really saying anything. So let's first start with his platform. So Jeff Stein of the Washington Post tweeted this out. Haven't heard back from Beto O'Rourke's team yet on his key policy priorities. So Beto O'Rourke right now has nothing. Now you may think, oh, it's too early, he just announced. But on the same day that Warren, Booker, Kamala, and Bernie announced, they had answers for Jeff Stein. So Jeff Stein tweeted this out after that, saying, here are the policy summaries we wrote for 4 of the other polling leaders who are officially in the race. So the other candidates started with a platform. They at least had something to offer. Beto O'Rourke right now is just completely empty platitudes. Now, why is that? Well, I did a video in December on Beto O'Rourke and his record in Congress. So I'm going to link to that above and below the video, but I want to touch on just a couple pieces that I used in that video. So check this out. Beto O'Rourke frequently voted for Republican legislation, analysis reveals. Review of his 6-year record in Congress shows Democrats frequently opposed own party and supported bills that boosted the fossil fuel industry and Trump's immigration policy. Capital and Maine reviewed the 167 votes O'Rourke has cast in the House in opposition to the majority of his own party during his 6-year tenure in Congress. Many of those votes were not progressive dissents alongside other left-leaning lawmakers, but instead votes to help pass Republican-sponsored legislation. Now, again, I go deeper into this in my other video, but I do want to touch on just sort of the overall idea of what Beto O'Rourke's record shows us. O'Rourke has voted for GOP bills that his fellow Democratic lawmakers said reinforced Republicans' anti-tax ideology, chipped away at the Affordable Care Act, weakened Wall Street regulations, boosted the fossil fuel industry, and bolstered Donald Trump's immigration policy. Consumer, environmental, public health, and civil rights organizations have cast legislation backed by O'Rourke as aiding big banks, undermining the fight against climate change, and supporting Trump's anti-immigrant agenda. During the previous administration, Barack Obama's White House issued statements slamming 2 GOP bills backed by the 46-year-old Democratic legislator. Now, why would a Democrat in Congress who appears, in his speeches, he tries to sound sort of progressive on issues, why would this Democrat be voting with Republicans so often? Well, it's because he shares a lot of the same donors that Republicans have. So the perfect example of this is his money from the oil and gas industry. So when we look at the top 20 recipients of oil and gas money, Beto O'Rourke is number 2, just behind Ted Cruz. And in fact, he is the only Democrat in the top 5 of this list, and only one of 2 Democrats in the top 20, the other being Heidi Heitkamp, who lost her race in November. So right now, he is the top Democrat and the only Democrat currently that is a politician that is taking money from the fossil fuel industry and is in the top 20 of politicians that take money from the oil and gas industry. This shows you who Beto O'Rourke is and why he is so vague. It's because his backers are big money donors with their own special interests that are not in the best interests of the vast majority of Americans. So it's no surprise that pretend progressive Beto O'Rourke no longer among group pledging to reject major fossil fuel donations. And that report is from December. So if Beto O'Rourke seems to be sort of all over the place, it's because he has to dance around the fact that he is not representing the people. He is representing his big donors. This is who Beto O'Rourke is for. Again, I hope people wake up to this because for me, a lot of this is obvious. I feel like I'm almost sort of explaining things that anybody should be able to recognize on the face of it. When you see a politician be very vague and try to be, at least in his case, very positive, or even in the case of conservatives, they use fear a lot and are also very vague. But in this case, somebody who is very vague, who is talking about just, we got to come together as Americans, we got to do better, this is the greatest country on earth, and doesn't give what his actual platform is, what he is fighting for. That should set off an alarm in your brain and make you think, okay, who is this guy for? Who is he fighting for? Who is he taking money from? Who's he answering to? So those are the details that you have to look into. Now, Beto O'Rourke, maybe 20 years ago, he would have been a great candidate. He's a candidate that appears to be from the 90s because he thinks that people don't have the ability to look up his record and look up where he takes his money. But we do have that ability. So he can't fool us anymore. Now, let me show you this is Anand Giridharadas on MSNBC talking about what Beto O'Rourke would need to do to actually be able to win.
Beto only wants to be positive. He doesn't like being negative. He doesn't like naming villains. He doesn't like being against anything. It's all about what you're for. And so I think the question hovering over Beto is, can he actually deliver against those issues if he wants to be just relentlessly positive? When you have a problem of foxes eating hens, kumbaya is a recipe for slaughter. And so I think he needs to figure out how he can have that uplifting message that he's committed to, while actually having a theory of the case of what's going on in American life, and who he needs to actually dislodge if he's going to help people on the questions he cares about.
For what it's worth, the recent Des Moines Register poll had Biden and Bernie way ahead, 27-25%, had Beto down at 5%.
So Anand touches on here what the problem with Beto is without going into why Beto is the way he is. So the reason that Beto is not embracing class conflict, the reason that Beto is not calling out the billionaires and the multimillionaire class that continues to rig the system in favor of the 1% and the people that already have all the wealth, all the power, the reason why Beto is not pointing this out is because that top 1% are his donors. So Beto is not going to adopt that message of class conflict. He's not going to discuss how, look, we have a system that is rigged and we have to fight back against that by these steps. We have to go through this process, fight for these policies. We all have to come together and ensure that we fight for these specific policies to fight back against these special interests. Beto is not doing that because Beto is taking money from those people. So he is not going to embrace that class conflict message. Now, a perfect example showing you how empty Beto O'Rourke is this 1-minute clip from him speaking in Iowa after launching his 2020 bid.
But these challenges, I am absolutely convinced, will bring out the absolute best in every single one of us. And we have something that almost no other country in the world has. We have the single greatest mechanism to call forth the genius of our fellow human beings. This democracy, more than 320 million people strong, can bring the ingenuity, the creativity, the resolve of an entire country. And each one of these challenges can and will be met. But the foundational challenge to get all of this done is to fix our democracy. Only when it works, and only when each one of us can work within it, will we be able to meet these threats. And so this setting right now, the very first event of our campaign for president is an example not only of the way that I wish to campaign across this country for every single American, and I could care less your party persuasion, your religion, anything other than the fact that right now we are all Americans and we are all human beings, and we do everything within our power for one another, for this great country, and for every generation that follows.
All right. That was a minute of nothing. Now, you could type out that entire speech, read it over. He said absolutely nothing. Let me give you one example out of that. So he says, quote, "We have something that almost no other country in the world has. We have the single greatest mechanism to call forth the genius of our fellow human beings." What the fuck does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. He's talking about what? Voting, I guess? A lot of countries have voting. There are many democracies around the world. But this is supposed to be something that no other country, almost no other country in the world has. We have the greatest mechanism to call forth the genius of our fellow human beings. This doesn't mean anything. This is Beto O'Rourke. He's just an empty shell. He's an empty vessel for big donors. That's what Beto O'Rourke is. Now, look, to be fair, Beto O'Rourke just got his first endorsement. Oh my, let's check out who it is. Kathleen Rice. I'm proud to endorse my friend Beto O'Rourke for president. He's honest, authentic, and has the courage of his convictions and a bold vision for our future. Most importantly, he'll build a movement that will rise above the toxic division in our politics and unite this country. Wow, Kathleen Rice coming out to support Beto O'Rourke. Who is this? Does anybody know who Kathleen Rice is? So let me show you. This is all you really need to know about Kathleen Rice. So this tweet from just last week. News. Primaries for Progress has obtained video of Representative Kathleen Rice of New York's 4th District comparing AOC to Donald Trump at a recent town hall, where she also dismissed the Green New Deal. That's all you need to know about who is backing Beto O'Rourke. Kathleen Rice, who has compared Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to Donald Trump and does not support the Green New Deal, may give you a small indication of what Beto O'Rourke is about. Now, before I end this video, I want to give you a couple more reactions from around the internet on Beto announcing. This one from Peter Douche's Liaison. This is a hilarious parody account. So he tweeted out, "Beto checks all the boxes. Voted to deregulate banks. Loves APAC. Supports fracking. Voted with GOP a lot. Voted to fast track TPP. Broke no fossil fuel money pledge. Didn't back Medicare for all. Didn't back Fight for 15. Lost to Ted Cruz. He's perfect." So that sort of sums up, based on Beto's record, what we know he would be about. I also want to share this tweet from IPMHQ that tweeted out, quote, "Man, I'm just born to be in it. Son of a judge who married the daughter of a real estate billionaire." Yeah, so I didn't mention this part yet until now because I don't think it's ultimately the most important thing here, but Beto O'Rourke is set to inherit billions of dollars. Is this a guy who's really going to challenge the wealthy? Is this a guy who's really going to challenge the ability for people that have all the money already to continue taking all the money, all the gains, all the benefits? Do you think Beto O'Rourke's going to come out for much higher taxes on the wealthy when he is set to inherit all this money? Unlikely. So again, when you look at the donors, you look at Beto's voting record, you look at his family, Beto O'Rourke is not a politician that is for the people. He is in this for himself and his big donors.